The Movies of the Meek, where we watch made-for-TV movies and miniseries so you don't have to. From Gia to Xenon, Hysteria to Sybil, welcome to Movies of the Meek.
This week, we watched the 2017 Lifetime original TV movie, The Boyfriend Killer. I actually think it's without the. I think it's just Boyfriend Killer.
Yeah.
It is the story of mom of Preston, who is, she's doing some sleuthing, and she thinks that this girlfriend of her son is the one who killed him. And that's basically the whole movie, is her trying to crack down on whether or not her son was murdered.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. She doesn't really have to, do much, really. I mean, the Crystal, her son's ex-girlfriend, has some very glaring warning signs, I would say. Like, extremely obvious she's up to something.
Now, the reason that I say Preston's mom is because even 10 minutes into the movie, I had only learned Preston's name, and he was a character who was dead.
Yes, I think they only say Preston's name and Crystal's name. Like, they say Crystal's name a lot.
They do, and it is
Jack.
one of those things where and Jack. It is one of those things where you could say that it's a lot more accurate than a normal script is. You could say, okay, so I don't call people by their names most of the time because of the fact that I'm familiar with them. Mm-hmm. Or in the case of the mom, she's familiar with her sister, so of course she's not going to call her by her name. I don't call my sister by her name.
What is the sister's name? Is it Manly Voice?
that's So that's the thing, is that the mom only ever calls the sister sis.
Yeah.
No one ever calls her a name. And so the entire time watching this movie, I'm going, okay, so I know Preston, and I know Crystal, and I know dad of Crystal, and I know mom of Crystal, and I know mom of Preston, and I know mom's
mom of Crystal and
sister.
Dad of Crystal.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's very confusing.
Yeah. But it's fine. That's what IMDb's for. They do have opening credits, which helps. I think. I don't think they have the cast though. I think it's just like a couple people.
That's only good if I'm trying to learn the actors' names.
I know. It was Boy Grip was the one they got in the opening credits.
Best Boy Grip.
Now, before we get into this, so when we first see Sandra, that's the mother's name, we see her.
Oh.
We see her on site because she's a big time real estate tycoon, and she talks, I guess, like the foreman of this project.
Yeah.
When she gets the call about her son, now she immediately calls her ex-husband, who's living in a different state. And it cuts to him at the bar drinking soda because he was an alcoholic, but he's not anymore. He's straight.
Yeah.
And I could have sworn, like the whole movie, I kept thinking about this. The actor who played the foreman was also the actor who played the bartender. I was like, are you kidding me? They used the same guy for these two roles, like 30 seconds apart. And I'll send you the screenshots. I eventually went back, and it's a different guy. But I was wondering if you also thought that.
That's just you.
Tight.
I'll be honest, I was so gripped by the father's performance that he's the only thing that my eyes were ever on.
He's great in this movie. Isn't he? There's an emotional depth to his character.
He's great. Now, this movie did raise a question immediately, which is the mother has to go and identify the body, and the sister comes and she decides to identify the body instead of the mother. And instead of the cliche bringing the mom or bringing the sister of the mom in to see the body, they just show them a photo. I thought that was weird.
That was really weird. Yeah, I don't. Maybe that's how they do it nowadays.
Yeah, is that a thing? Have we been lied to by movies?
The coroner
this
just
whole time?
takes a picture on his cell phone, saves it to his files,
just texts it
and then
to
later
you.
uses it for his Instagram stories.
Yo.
But yeah, deep throat had to look at the picture for Sandra because she was too emotional.
Is that her name now? We're calling her Deep
Dude,
Throat.
She sounded like she smoked many packs of cigarettes a day.
I know you're in a grieving period of your life, but I'm here for you.
So the father ends up finding out about his son dying. He, of course, is quite distraught. And he decides to take the next flight in. And this is where we're introduced to Crystal. And so Crystal is talking to her family about how she hasn't been able to get in contact with her boyfriend and she doesn't know what's going on.
This is crazy because she plays the part perfectly in this scene. Like, I was convinced. Like, I was like, oh, so this movie is going to make you kind of guess as to if she killed this guy. Right?
Yes.
But yeah, I'm just throwing that out there, so keep going.
And that's, I was going to ask you whether or not you were also like me, and you were kind of rooting for her. I would say 70% of the movie.
For Crystal?
Yeah, I was like,
In what way are you
maybe
rooting?
it's not her.
Okay. Are you saying that, like, I see what you're saying. Okay, you were rooting for her, like, it to be a fake out type thing. Like, no.
Yeah.
No, I mean...
And it's really the dad.
Oh. See, if she acted as if she did the first scene with her family, if it was that quality of acting from her, and not even like she was bad at acting in this movie, I'm just saying like her performance as, a distraught girlfriend, like it falls apart after this scene. When she meets shortly after this scene, she meets Sandra, Preston's mom and dad, for the first time at the apartment, and she completely changes character. It seems like she goes from like almost being so convincing to being like really weird and like, let me make you tea, and like doesn't know where the tea is, and then's like, oh, I need to take that computer, what are you doing? And it's like, you're acting very strange for someone who didn't just kill a man. But you bought it and you were rooting for the whole movie.
I was rooting for her 70% of the movie.
So at what point did you say, oh no, she probably killed him?
When she had sex with Troy.
What?
I was like, maybe.
Not when like the emails and she was deleting the emails and all the other stuff.
No, I wouldn't want people looking through my emails.
Okay. Yeah, but she was only deleting the ones where they got in a huge fight and they were like saying, I mean, I understand, like they put some of that in the movie.
She was probably gonna delete all the emails. She just didn't have time to get through all of them. She was just going in, order that they were sent in.
Okay. All right.
Not me.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
I don't know, and that's the thing, is that we're in this weird fucked up social media age, and Facebook has a feature on it where when you die, your parents can have control of your account. I don't even have Facebook, and I don't want my family having power over any of my accounts for anything.
Yeah, I guess I
don't want anyone to know the monster that I truly am.
But I guess, so I understand her wanting to delete the, potentially delete embarrassing files or something on his computer, or trying to delete the conversations they've had over social media. Like that, I guess that makes sense, right? Like if they were, and she even says it later on in the movie when she's trying to convince, Troy, is that his name? Yeah. So, and she's like, well, we had some pretty sexual chats or something, which makes sense. Yeah. But like, the way she went about it was not like, she set off some red flags there, Max. And not in like,
And on her defense, what's the alternative?
I don't know, man. Just be up front. I don't know. I mean, it sounded like, well, how did the mom get access to the social media accounts? It was Troy.
She gets access to all the accounts through Troy,
except for the email.
But she gets access to the email via contacting whatever the email hub and saying my son's died and I want access to these accounts. You know what I'm gonna do when my son dies via some unknown means that's probably murder? I'm just gonna call the companies and say shut these shits down.
Yeah, that's what I would do too. And I don't know,
because guess what I don't want to do? Go through all my dead kids' emails.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that would be what she would have done. But the only reason she wanted to get into the accounts in the first place and look at everything was because she was convinced this girl killed her son. So maybe if this bitch wasn't acting so crazy, she would have just fucking called Facebook and like delete this account or archive, whatever they do. They don't really delete anything, apparently. I don't know.
Now, speaking of Facebook, they don't have the rights to actual Facebook, and so it's a fake Facebook.
But they reference it.
And
I love it.
I love fake Facebook in movies.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It looks so shitty. And that's actually how Crystal ends up finding out that Preston is dead, because the mom posts a Facebook post where she's like, I'm so sad.
Dude, I wrote down, like, is this what people do? Like, I mean, I don't check Facebook that much anymore, but I don't, like, that's insane. Like, it was like the night that she found out her son died. And she's like, I regret to inform everybody that my son Preston has died. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, give yourself a couple days. It's her first thing she does when she gets home is post on Facebook.
R.I.P. my little
That's
angel.
the last thing I'd want people to know is that happened to me. You know? Like, it's none of anyone's business. But okay, I guess you won me over on the whole Crystal thing. Like, you know what? Yeah. Like, looking back, maybe I was a little too judgmental of Crystal. I mean, she did end up doing it, of course, but
oh yeah,
but
she ended up being crazy.
Yeah, she was a little crazy. But I mean, look who her dad was, man. Her dad was a little weird.
He was not a good guy.
Very mean to her.
Now, so they run into Crystal. She is inside the apartment. She's snooping around. She's trying to steal some stuff. She's lying, saying that she's been living there for a couple weeks now. And then the mom is like, well, go make me some tea then, you dumb bitch. And Crystal goes to grab her some tea, and Crystal doesn't know where the tea bags are. And the mom is like, I think this girl might have killed my son because she doesn't know where these tea bags are.
I think it was when she freaked out over the computer. That was the real red flag, dude. The way she did that was kind of insane. That was insane.
No, the mom's like, she doesn't know where the tea bags are. I'm pretty sure she killed my son. And it's, yes, okay, so the mom ends up doing some super sleuthing later when Crystal's like, no, you can't take that computer. I bought that computer. That's my computer. It has my nudes on it. You can't have it. And the mom's like, all right, fine, have the computer. And then when she's with her husband or former husband, ex-husband, I don't know if they're still married or not, whatever, knockoff Jason Bateman and mom are going through, once again, just weird shit. They're just like going through receipts of their sons.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
It's like, why?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they were just going through a box of his things.
Like, what's the point of that? I mean, maybe it's different when you have a kid die or something, but I've known a lot of people that have died, and we didn't just go through all their stuff.
Well, I mean,
know.
But you
Anyway.
never had a kid that passed away. Like, I think that's a
what
different,
I'm saying.
Yeah, that's a different thing, but it is still a little strange. It seemed that they just threw in a bunch of random shit in the box and they were looking through it. Like, there was like pictures of him when he was a kid, a recent receipt of a computer, which I'm assuming they got from the apartment, and some other things, some other trinkets.
Yeah, and so when they see that receipt, they're like, oh, Crystal's a liar. And the dad's like, maybe he bought a different computer.
Well,
and then the mom...
That was kind of an insane thing to say, too. But
the mom is like, well, I'm a goddamn detective, and I'm going to see if these serial numbers are identical. And she's like, they are identical. She's the murderer. And so... An hour and 11 minutes into this movie, knockoff Jason Bateman says, why don't we just call the cops? And it's one of those things where, why didn't they just call the cops not an hour and 11 minutes into this movie? Why didn't they do it immediately?
Well, they were calling the cops for what reason? An hour and 10 minutes into the movie.
Because they thought that she might be the killer.
Well, I mean, like you were saying, you didn't know until, an hour into the movie if she was the killer. So Sandra probably didn't. She wasn't convinced yet.
She was convinced.
Well, she had any proof. All she had was Crystal being weird and just doing weird shit and kind of being mean, but like whatever. Yeah. So, I mean, when Crystal... after the viewing, or I guess it was the funeral. I don't know. It was a viewing and funeral, and she snuck into their house and stole and was trying to find the documents. With I guess they were the printouts of the email. Like that was a time to call the police. She broke into your house. She was not invited, and she stole things. So,
agreed.
So at that point, I was like, okay. This is a fine time to call the police.
Yeah. Another reason why mom of Preston
Jesus Christ
thinks
her name is Sandra Barbie Sandra Doro.
Is that the actor?
I combined her real name and her fake name.
God
it's Sandra Doro, I think.
Okay. Now, the reason that she thinks that Crystal is possibly a killer is she goes, she only has one pair of shoes here. And she said she moved in last week.
She didn't think she was a killer yet, Max. She was still putting the clues together. She's like, this is fucking weird. And it is weird because she did just bring a bunch of her shit from her fucking mansion that she lives in and threw it around the house.
But she did that when the parents weren't there.
Yeah, but that's like a girl thing, Max. Like, girls have shoes.
You're right. They don't just have one pair. You're right. That's my bad.
I am very much Team Sandra in this, and I feel like you're Team Crystal. And it's like kind of bugging me.
I'm Team Jack, guys. Okay, I'm Team Jack, which is where I was going to get to at this point. In the end, but is where Crystal goes to Jack, and when Crystal goes to Jack, did you notice that he's yelling the entire time?
That was my favorite. Was this the one? He yells twice, or doesn't he yell like out front of his house, and then also behind? He's inside of his house, and she's like begging him to let her in. That scene you're talking about?
He's inside his house the entire time, but then at one point he just opens the door, and so it's him yelling at her through a glass door. It's like she can clearly hear you at normal volume. Get off my property!
Yeah, he was amazing in this movie.
And she says, Jack, I'm in a dark place. Oh, I love it so much.
She's great. She plays crazy so well.
She plays crazy very well. And it's right after this point that knockoff Jason Bateman decides to go to a bar while mother of Preston is going through her son's emails. And she's just like, everything's crazy. And the woman that is coming on to knock off Jason Bateman, didn't her voice sound like it was 80 Yard and it was 80 Yard by like a sex robot? That was really weird. She did not sound like a real person.
That whole scene was really weird, Max.
Yeah.
And it's funny because towards the end of their conversation, he kind of pushes her away because he's like grieving and he's only there drinking because he's sad. He doesn't really want to hook up. But then like a minute later, he comes barging through the front door of Sandra's house with her in his arms, like he's about to bone her. So I'm like,
I loved that he had the audacity to bring a woman into his ex-wife's house.
And then he leaves, or he gets kicked out, and then he sleeps in his dead son's bed. That was also very creepy.
Yeah, but he doesn't remember how he got there. You know.
Yeah.
He calls up his ex-wife the next morning. He's like, "Hey, I just want you to know, whatever happened, I'm sorry." And she's like, "Yeah, well, you're a piece of shit." And he's like, "I don't know how I ended up in my dead son's bed, but I'm very sad." And she's like, "Yeah, I know, you're a piece of shit." And he's just like, "Hey, can I come back?" And she's like, "I don't know. I'll see you at the funeral." And then it's at the funeral that Crystal's like, "I was Preston's fiance, by the way, guys."
A bombshell.
And everyone's like, "Not only do we not know that you were living there, but also now you're saying you're his fiance." And she's like,
what was the strategy there, do you think? Just to...
What? Saying that you were the fiance?
Is it to make yourself look innocent? Or... I didn't understand, like, what her intentions, besides that he didn't love her enough. I felt like everything she did didn't really help her case for being innocent.
Oh no,
she wasn't doing it because she wanted to steal his things or do, you know what I mean? Like she wasn't in the house trying to actually steal anything because she's fucking loaded, and he was broke apparently. I don't know. She just wasn't a good killer, I would say.
Obviously.
Well, you didn't think she killed him at all half the movie. So. True.
More than half of the movie. I was rooting for her. I was like, I believe in you, Crystal.
Yeah, and then she like ruined it because then she shot her dad with a gun with no bullets in it.
Whoa, spoiler.
I got a bone to pick about that scene.
Right after the funeral where she says that she is the fiance, she is snooping around the house where they're having an after funeral party, is what I'll call it.
Funeral party.
She's snooping around the bedroom, and the dad's like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And then he's like, "I know what you did. I know what you're doing in there. And I know what you're up to." And she was like, "You don't know shit, you garbage drunk piece of trash. You know what he thought of you? He thought you were a piece of shit that ran. He thought you were a fucking monster, and he never wanted to see you again." And he's like, you don't know my son. Sure, I have been out of his life for a really long time, but you're wrong.
That was spot on until the end, Max. No, his main argument was that his son was broke, and there's no way his son could have bought her that ring, that crazy ring she had on her finger.
Now it's also funny because of the fact that if you want to use logic, you could actually use his reason for saying that he had no money as the reason that he could have paid for the ring, and he just didn't want to admit the fact that what he brings up is the story where Preston asked him for money because of some gambling debt. She could then say that it wasn't actually gambling debt, it's that he needed money to buy the ring. And so she could have then used that as, "Hey, by the way, you're an idiot," and he just didn't want to talk to you about anything because he thinks you're a piece of garbage, and he didn't want to tell you the truth of this situation, which is that he was getting me an engagement ring and lying to you and saying that it was gambling debt.
Yo. If she was a little bit smarter, she could have pulled this off.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Even how she kills people, worse. Well, actually, the Preston's death was ingenious.
Oh yeah, Preston's death was pretty tight.
I don't want to spoil anything. We're not there yet.
And so it's immediately after this wonderful party and this wonderful confrontation that mom, dad, and sis are all together in one room, and they're talking about all this crazy stuff that's happening. And they're hitting it off. They're all having some great conspiracies and fun times. And that's where, once again, I couldn't help but notice that all of the makeup on their faces are different colors than their goddamn bodies.
Wait.
And they all look like monsters
really?
in that scene. Every single one of them, their makeup was so shitty. And I just couldn't help but notice. I was just like, come on, guys. It's not that hard, Lifetime. You can do it. Do these people not care about themselves? I guess not. It's fine. And then we meet Liz, the ugliest office assistant that's ever existed. And that's Liz. I know Liz's name. I was like, that's bullshit. I don't know the mom's name, but I know Liz.
That's so funny that you know her name. When I saw her, I was like, there's no name that could describe this person.
They instantly go, oh, hi, Liz. And then the second time, because she's only in the movie twice, they're like, hi, Liz, again.
Oh my god, she's very strange looking woman.
She is very strange looking.
It looks like I'm not gonna start making fun of her, but it looks like her forehead's too big for her head.
Now I also love how the mom ends up calling the husband. I wish I knew these
Charles,
names.
dude. Charles Doro.
They never say
I had to
any
look
of
his name
this.
up. They don't say his name.
The mom calls the husband and says, Preston would have liked us to end on a positive note. Would you like to have dinner? And it's like, no, Preston probably doesn't give a fuck about any of this. He would just like to be alive. Like, what are you talking about? He just wanted to play volleyball with his bros. Also, did you think that there's a possibility that one of the twists was going to be that Crystal was super crazy and that Preston was actually gay?
No, I did not. That is not one of the things I thought in this movie.
Okay, because I thought that Troy was going to show up and be like, I'm actually Preston's fiance.
Oh, dude, your mind was going in this movie.
And then everyone was going to be like, oh, shit, Crystal's really a liar. And then it was going to be like Crystal being like, what would you rather imagine? Like that your son was secretly gay and wouldn't tell you, or that he had a straight fiance that he wouldn't really tell you about?
The only twist that I thought was a possibility was Troy, because when he's introduced, he starts talking to Sandra at the funeral party, and the way he comes on, it seems like he was sent by Crystal to get information, because he's asking like questions about, you know what I mean, and even though like after Sandra kind of pulls him aside, the way he's acting around her, it seemed kind of fake to me. And I was like, well, maybe he's helping Crystal out in some way. Like maybe he's friends with Crystal, because Crystal's already established that she has her cousin that helped her out with a computer, or not her cousin, her friend, whatever that guy was, whoever that guy was.
She calls him her cousin.
But that didn't pan out. But
to quote Troy, "You really are beautiful. You know that." And she does, and that's how she manipulates people.
Dude, he falls hard for
using her sensuality.
He falls hard. Those volleyball bros don't
so hard.
Those volleyball bros don't really see those,
have much self-esteem.
Self-esteem, and they don't see any of the red flags in relationships. Well, I guess Preston did. That's why he died, right? Because he said, "No, I am not going to steal $30,000 from your ex-boyfriend." That is actually crazy. What was I going to ask you? Oh yeah. So her whole thing with men not loving her, that is directly related to her father, right?
Of course.
Okay, because he doesn't love her enough. He not only does he not love her enough, he treats her like garbage.
Yeah.
And like talks about her weight and shit. Like that's just weird to me. You don't do that.
And also, I would think, the strangest thing with all of that is that not only is he not showing her affection in any way, but he's also commenting on her inability to continue getting affection from people. because that was his problem with Jack, is that he, in his opinion, was the perfect man, and she was too shitty of a woman to keep a man like him around and understand how to keep a man like him around.
Mm-hmm.
Which gets into, I don't know, some weird gross shit where I'm like, ew, what would have kept him around?
Yeah, I don't know.
You know? Especially when you then hear Jack's side of the story, where Jack is like, oh yeah, she had a bunch of problems and was clearly just insane, and I did not want to deal with that. And so to the dad, I'm wondering what he thought his daughter would have had to do to keep a man like him around, when, in Jack's opinion, the thing that she would need to do to keep a man like him around is to leave for probably multiple years and get a whole bunch of therapy, figure herself out as a person, figure out what type of love and affection she needs and also can provide for other people, and then come back as a fully formed and developed person ready to take part in a relationship that he desires.
And stop playing with her hair.
Yo, calm the fuck down.
That was annoying. I wonder if that was something in the script or if the actress brought that to the character.
I think that's part of her actor's secret, you know.
Yeah.
She's like,
it was a good little thing.
She's like, you know who definitely is gonna seem really crazy? Someone who doesn't stop playing with their hair.
And only looks at the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I love how Jack says that the mom is the moral compass of the family.
Yeah, I thought that was a little strange considering that she's like always fucking high as shit.
She's always high as shit on pills and like completely shut off to the world. And it's like, it seems like she's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It seems like she's numbing herself to not deal with anything that's happening.
Yeah. That was a really strange thing to say.
Yeah.
Well, maybe before her episode, she was a moral compass of the family.
Maybe.
I don't know. You don't really get. I kind of wanted to see more of that mother. She was fun.
She was a good character. She was the best character.
Yeah, I liked when she runs off after she finds out Jack was stabbed, not knowing Crystal did it, and she was talking to Sandra, and she like runs off like very hysterically.
Yeah.
But she was trying to like be hysterical, but also on pills and not feel anything.
Yeah.
It was an interesting performance.
All right, so mom of Preston is trying to get to the bottom of everything. My boy Troy hooks her up with some passwords. He's like, hey, yo, Preston and I had this really convenient talk one time where we were talking about ways you should have the same password but use it for multiple social media networks. So it's like if you have a Twitter, then it's like you have the password,
like
but then you have a T at the end. And so then if you got Facebook, then it's like the password, but then you add an F at the end. So if you got Instagram, then it's like the password, but you got an I at the end. And the mom is like, my God, what a convenient conversation for you to recall at this exact moment. You should go have sex with Crystal. And he's like, hey, yo, I will. And he does. And that's where, of course, they have to show that Crystal is crazy. And so when Troy's having sex with her, she's not paying attention. She's staring off into the darkness and having a flashback sequence. And then my personal favorite scene of all time in this film happens, which is where the mom calls Troy. When Troy is on the phone, Crystal is right there the entire time.
Yeah.
And so the mom is like, I really want you to stay away from her. I think that she cut the brakes on Preston's motorcycle. And Troy's like, what? And he's having all these hilarious reactions the entire time. And Crystal's eyes are just wide, and she's like, And then when Crystal gets him to hang up, she's still able to convince him that that's not the case.
Somehow, magically.
She's just
I think
like,
it has something to do with her boobs.
It definitely does. And then she's like, no, everything's fine. You should definitely come over for lunch today. And he's like, oh, yeah, totally. He buys her flowers. And so she has him write down the address for him to go and get lunch with her at her family's house. It's, of course, not her family's house. It's Jack's house.
Yes.
And so when he goes there, she at this point has stabbed Jack, which, looking at my notes, that's actually the point where I came to the conclusion that she was crazy.
Okay. And that's a concrete point in the movie where you could look to and say, hey, she may have killed Preston.
That's also a concrete 80% of the way through the movie.
Yeah. Now, was her intention, so she has Troy come to the house, and she speeds off as he gets there.
Yeah.
Jack is laying on the floor, stabbed multiple times of his bathroom. So her plan was to frame Troy?
Yeah.
And say it was a thing of jealousy or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that immediately backfired because he looked pretty broken up and kept saying, I didn't do this, I swear. And like he wasn't, I don't know. What was she thinking? How would that even work?
She wasn't thinking.
Okay. She was just off the rails.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, it's at that point that she was broken because she couldn't have the man that she had because she loved him too much, and so she loved him so much no one could have him.
She formulated the plan though. I don't know, Max.
Yeah,
that seemed like way more of a plan than Preston. Like Preston seemed like it was she got pissed off and ran him off the road. But no, she didn't because she put a GPS tracker on it. Yeah.
Yeah, and she arranged for that guy to do it.
She's just a fucking idiot. So she has these plans. She doesn't really think them through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And then it's the greatest climax in film history, where it's fucking insane.
Yeah, it is. It gets pretty wild. Let's break it down, dude.
That's also this movie. So this movie has a lot of weird like key strikes and weird sounds where it'll be like, "Wah!" And then there's just like these long ass pauses where it's just like, I don't know if that was your intention for this type of moment in the soundtrack, but it kind of feels like you were trying to build some sort of tension and then you just do nothing with it, and it's real bizarre.
Yeah, definitely. And there was one scene in particular where they were playing this kind of ambient synthy song, and they like walk through a door and they like cut it to like a completely different track for no reason. And it wasn't even like, I don't like the tone of the scene didn't call for a change in music, especially one that was that abrupt. And why would they cut it as they were walking through a doorway? It was the weirdest thing I've ever heard. I had headphones on, so I was like, this is fucking crazy. Yeah, but those weird pauses were strange. Yeah,
it was very bizarre. And so that happens immediately as, you know, she's fleeing the scene, and, you know, she ends up running into the mom on the fucking side of the road, and she pulls the gun on the mom, and then the dad shows up, and then she pulls the gun on the dad, and it's just fucking insane. And she kills her dad.
Well, he's dead, right? For sure?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Do we ever find out if he died? He's not in the courtroom at the end.
He's not in the courtroom at the end.
I guess that. Okay.
Yeah.
Jack, yes, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. He would.
Yeah,
he would.
Jack survived.
Yeah. Yeah, she kills her dad.
Yeah.
Oh, that was a great scene.
That was an incredible scene.
Yeah.
And if I'll be honest, I think that's what she really needed. You know?
Yeah, she should have done that first, if you think about it.
Yeah. Maybe if she had killed her father, then she could have been the type of woman that Jack really needed.
I just can't get the picture out of my head of Sandra escaping Crystal after Crystal shoots at her and pulls her out of the car. She escapes Crystal's grip. A car drives up. Sandra runs up to the vehicle and is like, help me, this bitch is trying to kill me. And the guy runs out, and it's fucking Crystal's friend, and he just like chases her. He fucking darts from the edge of the screen into frame, and like, what the fuck is happening? And did you think that when the dad drove up, he was gonna fucking kill Sandra, like to cover it up for Crystal?
No.
I thought for sure, because he rolls up and his reaction at first is just like, oh, here we go again. Like, this is not the first time this has happened. And they established that he's a very wealthy individual. You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, this is like a whole network of people that are just in charge of making sure Crystal gets off.
Yeah.
But that didn't happen. She just fucking kills him. That'd been an interesting little twist, though, wouldn't it?
I am deeply ashamed of you. Yeah, it would have.
I feel like when we watched this movie, Max, we came up with completely different, like, what-if scenarios.
Yeah, and we came up with a completely different, better movie.
Totally, dude.
Because this movie was just incredibly straightforward.
Yeah.
I mean, my fault for watching a movie called Boyfriend Killer and assuming
literally, it was very,
that anything else happened. I will also say
it's very true. The movie's called Boyfriend Killer. There's really nothing else that this movie could have been about. Okay, what are you gonna say?
Well, that was my thing. Was who is the boyfriend killer? You know?
Yeah.
I was looking at it as a whodunit, but that was apparently too much for Lifetime, and they wanted it to be, oh no, you can tell who done it because she's fucking crazy. And I was going, maybe Lifetime's really going hard on trying to frame this Crystal girl, and she's innocent until 80% of the way through the movie, where she's stabbing her ex. And I was like, I think she killed the boyfriend, guys. I think she did it.
Yeah, this was not Gone Girl.
This was not Gone Girl.
But I definitely enjoyed it. I had a good time watching this movie. All the performances were pretty amazing across the board.
The end of the movie where she's wearing that classic orange jumpsuit and she has her crazy crack-lipped face. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, it was good.
That was worth it right there.
The judge didn't look like she wanted to be in this movie.
I'll be honest, most people didn't look like they wanted to be in this movie.
Especially the sister of the mom.
She's my favorite. I love her.
I don't know what you're getting at, but I think you might be onto something, and I will support you this entire way through.
All right, so next week, I think we should do Lifetime's A Tale of Two Corys, a biopic about Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. And it looks so good.
I am very
And
down.
fun fact, the dad of Preston is also in that movie, which is how I found it.
Oh, good choice.
Yeah, I don't know who he plays.
Doesn't matter.
I hope he doesn't play a character who abuses the Corys. I don't want to see any of that in this movie.
I hope he plays a main character.
Yeah, I hope he does too. This movie looks fantastic, though. Jesus
A Tale of Two Corys. I'm gonna read A Tale of Two Cities and see how they compare.